Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Tech Check. And continuing along, we want to keep highlighting different points in the diaspora. And with us today, I've been able to bring on a very unique guest, very intelligent man I've had the joy of talking to on some of the theoretics and what's happening in the Pakistan tech ecosystem. I'd like to welcome Faisal Aftab, who is the managing director of Lakson Venture Capital. Faisal, welcome to Tech Check.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome, and it's good to have you with us. So in Tech Check fashion, let's dive right in. Faisal, tell us a little bit, what was the impetus behind Lakson Venture Capital?
Sure. So I was primarily based in the US. I'm a Pakistani American, so I moved back about almost 3 years back. But I had businesses in the US and in Pakistan, primarily in the tech space. So got involved in both back office development and then a few investments out here as well. And what I felt was, and I'm giving the backdrop of what how Lakson Venture Capital came about, how the partnership was set up.
Sure.
My thesis was that as the developed markets post the 2008 financial crisis start to basically print money, what will end up happening is that eventually they'll have to go negative, and which we've already seen in Europe, and technically the yield in the US, if you look at the 10-year treasury at 0.68% and
Right.
2% inflation rate target from the Fed, you have a negative 1.32% yield. So the reason why that's important is what I felt is, in a world awash with capital, you're going to have the search for yield, and assets will start to get overpriced in different parts of the world. And if eventually the fifth most populous country in the world, Pakistan, is going to be extremely investable for this excessive capital. And so after I moved back, I was essentially an angel investor looking at very select investments. And then a friend of mine, who's my current business partner's cousin, Babar Lakhani's cousin, connected Babar and I. And Babar was looking to launch a venture capital fund, and he's also heavily involved in tech as well. And so the two of us essentially combined forces and launched Lakson Venture Capital. Lakson Venture Capital is backed by the Lakson Group, which is one of the largest conglomerates in Pakistan, with Kohli-Palmolive, McDonald's, Express Media, Cybernet, one of the largest fiber optic companies, and multiple other businesses. And then a lot of the other leading business families. It's a multi-family office as well, Lakson Investments. So a lot of the other leading business families also joined in. So this is the first fund giving exposure to the existing incumbent business families into tech in Pakistan in a structured manner.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And it's good to see that some of these big conglomerates who have multi-generational successes in the country are now, that validates tech, in my opinion. So that's a great thing. So moving along, Faisal, what are some of the key investments that you and the Lakson team have looked at, and where have you invested so far?
So our thesis is based on the exchange of value protocol disruption, which is the current theme generally in the world, right? As currencies digitize and regulation pushes us towards cashless systems and digitization, OECD Common Reporting Standards, FATF, Basel III. So what is the most important component in that is to go after not necessarily the bubble in terms of the payment gateways. What we look for is the use cases, because a ton of money is going to come in and create all sorts of payment platforms that we saw in India and the rest of the region. But none of these payment platforms really are going to be able to do much if they don't have a relevant use case, apart from paying utility bills and basic services, right? Which everyone can onboard through one link. So what we invest in is the platforms. A classic example would be something like Careem. So exchange of value between a rider and a driver, which was essentially the informal economy. And what Careem did was capture that value inside a digital platform. Even if it's being settled in cash, the transaction's being logged, right? And then that becomes eventually the use case for these payment platforms in terms of as you start to digitize with convenience. So some of the companies we've invested in with that theme in mind, and obviously this is the first layer of digital disruption in Pakistan. So you want to go for many very basic disruption, right? E-commerce is probably the most common one, right? So any type of, whether it's in travel, whether it's in even basic things like airline travel. And then obviously you've got Daraz, which you've got lots of niches like babies, like soap.com, diapers.com type of stuff in the US. Those type of niches that capture that segment, that's what we've gone after. So we've done a total of 5 investments to date. Again, the fund officially launched in February of 2019.
Okay.
And our average ticket size is about $1 million, about between $750,000 to $1 million each deal.
Okay.
The objective is to invest in 8 companies in the pre-Series A round, just which we felt was a market gap. So you come in right when they're having a product market fit, or showing them, and as well as showing a network effect, and then really write them a check to give them a 24-month runway, and then work with them closely as a soundboard to help them scale, because this is the first iteration of the disruption, right? So you don't have founders that are trained, as in the Silicon Valley, about 30 years plus of a track record of people in companies, ex-PayPal, ex-Google people that go and create companies, right? In Pakistan, really the first wave was your Daraz and your Food Pandas, and the Kareem guys now are coming out and creating companies. So with that in mind, BookMe.pk, which is Pakistan's leading travel platform, completely cashless, and still one of the fastest growing revenues in the country. So it shows that there is a payment use case in Pakistan, as long as you provide efficiency and convenience. They basically commuter buses and airline travel, as well as logistics, and they're adding subsequent verticals. Mandi Express, which is disrupting the actual Sabzi Mandi, where they've actually gathered data, and that data itself is valuable because you can actually do price discovery, and then they link in with super apps as well as direct B2C. The super apps, by Food Panda, Daraz, the D-Fresh is actually powered by them in the back end. And so these, they essentially become a key component as a B2B in that space, in the fresh produce segment. Then we've done Knowledge Platform, which is Pakistan's one of the leading ed techs. We co-invested with Beacon House, which is the largest private school system.
Right.
They're again scaling very rapidly. Ed tech is extremely important in a country like Pakistan. 43 million school-going children only. 23 million are in private schools, of which 22 million are in low-cost private schools. Student-teacher ratios are off, so this is what's augmenting the classroom and then eventually disrupting the classroom, especially the tuition component. Then we've done Baggallery.pk, which is the leading e-commerce platform, similar to Namsheen in UAE, for females, 94% females. One of the fastest growing segments with beauty and lifestyle products. And again, like I said, this is that soap.com, diapers.com type theme where you go for niche, and then as JD.com, competitors of Alibaba, Rakuten, Noon.com, Amazon.ae enter Pakistan, they're going to look for a portfolio to aggregate. So with that in mind. The last one I'll quickly tell you is Rumi.pk, which is similar to Oyo Rooms, but without the Oyo Rooms, excessive free money capital. And, as I always say, you want to create a rhino, not a unicorn. You want to create a company with foundations and then make it $1 billion versus a unicorn that can essentially go pop in one mess up, right? Because the team is always used to incremental capital. This isn't Silicon Valley where you get that incremental capital repeatedly.
Sure.
And so Rumi is a virtual Fairmont where they take 2- and 3-star properties throughout the northern areas, and then is eventually the rest of Pakistan. And they basically take in redo the property and then take over the hospitality management. And they have a digital system linked to Booking.com and other elements that basically churns out rooms. And it's targeting the 70% population that's below the age of 30 domestically. Millennials and Gen Zers that are going to be doing domestic travel since they can't really get visas to travel overseas. So just thought I'd share a brief.
That's a great, and I do see where the consumer play is very much the focus. And that's very interesting because you guys seem to be focusing on concepts that are, have a Me Too effect from outside, but then bring on the localization required in an environment like Pakistan.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly.
So off to our last question. We're almost out of time. Quick feedback here, Faisal. What is your opinion? Where is the Pakistan tech ecosystem headed? And in an elevator pitch style format, what is your prediction 5 years out?
I think Pakistan is the most undervalued asset on the planet. Again, I mentioned, I'll just throw out some quick numbers. 5th most populous country, 80 million plus broadband users, 97% of them that come from smartphones. Better than Bangladesh, better than a lot of the regional MENA economies. People just don't look at it seriously. And so I'm happy about that because I'm investing, picking up a valuation. I think we're going to leapfrog this decade because as the World Economic Forum in 2019 aptly put it, the pace of adoption of technology in this decade is going to be faster than the last 50 years. And that's a godsend for Pakistan as we move towards digital payments, where our black economy or informal economy, that's at least another $300 billion, is going to literally leapfrog into documentation as the international regulations that move in force documentation of this economy. And as tech platforms take over, they're going to document this economy. So I'm extremely bullish. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. Wave two, wave three, as these founders and these successful companies like Baikia, like BookMe, I'm talking about the wave two guys, and their employees and co-founders, when they go and create new companies, it's really going to change the world, especially with what's coming with blockchain and some of these other innovations in payments and the back-end settlement there. So really excited about this country.
Awesome, Faisal. Faisal, again, thank you. I always enjoy talking to you. I find you very insightful, very academic with a very strong professional capability. So thank you for joining us today.
And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Really appreciate you taking the time to have me on here.
No, our pleasure. For our audience out there, look, as you can see, we keep changing form, flavor, format, people. You got to support us here. Like our YouTube channel, subscribe to it. All of our social media instances, please come support us. We want to keep this train moving. We're really shedding positive light on the Pakistan diaspora and to the diaspora on what we're seeing in Pakistan. Let's focus on that. Let's keep the positivity going. Let's get people like Faisal in front of people like you and make things happen. In any case, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Faisal. Allah Hafiz.